All right, so in this lesson here, 2-3, we're going to start, now that we know how to find the equation of a line given a slope and through a point, we're going to find the equation of a line through two given points. So here's the deal. In the first video, we were just given the slope. Well, how else can we find this slope? How else can we find m? Well, quite simply put, if we have a line here, notice that if I give you any point on the line here, it's the point 0, -4, and then another point on the line. Here, it's the point, what is that? Well, let me go to a nice even number, whole number. That looks like 5, 0. Well, what we did is we went up 4 units and over 5 units. So I know that the slope of this line going up 4 over 5 is 4 over 5, right? It's the fraction 4/5. And you could have done that using any 2 points. It turns out if you started with this point, which is about 2.5, -2, and then went over here to this, which looks like about 7.5, 2, you would have found that the ratio of going up and over is also 4/5. Okay? So any 2 points on the line can give you the slope. So if I have 2 points on a line, I basically just need to figure out how big of a change in the y value was there versus how big of a change in the x value was there to get to the next point. All right? And so that takes us to what we call the slope formula. The slope formula looks like this. Whoops. I don't know what that came out. I apologize there. M equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Now, don't be too confused. This y2 and x2 just means the y value of the second point and the x value of the second point. This y1 and x1 mean the y value of the first point and the x value of the first point. So those subscripts just mean of the first point or of the second point. But really what this is saying is this is how far up or down did we travel to get from point 2 to point 1. That's the change in the y value. Over how far left and right did we travel to get to the next point. That's the change in the x value. So you can either memorize, I like memorizing this formula. It's just difference in y values minus difference in x values. Notice we have to be really careful. If we start with the second y value, we're going to have to start with the second x value. In other words, you can't just mix them up, which inputs you have. There's an example here that you can follow if you like. You can do that one on your own. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the cooperative group problems, and I'm going to show you how to do a couple of these. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. So let's take a look at number 1. It says find the equation of a line through points 3, 1 and 2, 5. We know we were looking for an equation of a line. We're looking for a y equals mx plus b. The first step that I'm going to do is try to find the slope. Now the slope is the difference in y values. So here is the y value of the second point, that's 5, minus the y value of the first point, that's 1. So we go 5 minus 1. And then I divide that by the x value of the second point, which is 2, minus the x value of the first point, which is 3. And so whatever that gives me is going to be my slope. In this case, I get 4 divided by a -1. Notice that is, if you want to simplify it, just a -4. Okay? So now I have the slope. And from this point on, it looks just like the problems that we did in the introduction. I'm going to go I'm going to go y equals -4x plus b. I know that this point here, this 2, 5, makes this equation true. So I'm going to plug in 2, 5. By the way, you could have also plugged in the other point because we know the other point also makes this true. So you can choose either this point to plug in or this point to plug in. Doesn't matter which point, just plug in one of the points. They'll both give you the same b value. In this case, 5 equals -8 plus b means b has to be, well, 13 again. Interesting. So there you are. B is equal to 13. Once again, we're looking at a equation of a line. So y equals -4x plus 13 is my final answer. All right. So there we go. That's the final answer to the question that was asked. So that's the idea, finding the slope. If I'm given 2 points, I can find the slope by doing change in y values divided by change in x values. Let's do another problem. All right, so it's find the equation for the line through points 1, -4, and 2, 10. So let's go to that problem, find the equation of a line through points 1, -4, and 2, 10. We want y equals mx plus b. Our first step is always finding what the m is. So in this case, difference in y values, be very careful because one of these is a negative. I'm going to take 10 minus, and here's where to be careful. This is a minus a -4. So 10 minus -4. Don't throw that off. And then my x values, we're going to do 2 minus 1. Notice I had to start with the 2 because I started with the 10 on top. In other words, I always start with the second point numbers first. So 10 and 2 lead off here. So why I said to be careful was because of this fact. 10 minus a -4 is a positive 14. Okay, make sure subtracting a negative is like adding a positive. And we get 14 over 1, which I like to reduce. I like to put in lowest form as just 14. So now I know what my m is. We go y equals 14x plus b. We can plug in some numbers. It doesn't matter if you choose the point 2, 10 or the point 1, -4 to plug in. I'm going to choose the point 2, 10. So plug in 10 for y. I'm going to plug in 2 for x. When it's all said and done, 10 equals 14 times 2 plus b simplifies as 10 equals 28 plus b. Subtract 28 from both sides, and we get a -18 is equal to b. So there you go. That gives you your m, that gives you your b, and now it's just a simple matter of writing the equation. Y equals 14x minus 18. So that's how to find the equation of a line through 2 points. And obviously, when you're writing this down as your answer, you're probably either going to circle your answer or put it in as your answer if you're putting things in on Moodle. anything like that. All right, so those are the first uh, two problems of the cooperative group work. Obviously, sometimes our slopes can be fractions. Sometimes our b's can involve fractions. And in those types of cases, we have to make sure that we write them in the correct way, whatever the problem asks for, whether it says improper fraction or decimal or mixed number, those types of things. But this is the basic idea. All right. So you can try those other three on your own and the at-home practice problems as well, but I'm going to push pause right there and go on to the next format.